Hello, beautiful faces, and this is Honestly Biased News and Community. My name is Aaron Gregory Austin, and my lovely co-host, Batty Lewis. Hello, Batty, how are you?
I'm good, Aaron. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. It's been like a year after the pandemic. I still feel pretty isolated, but a lot of hope in 2021, right? COVID-wise.
Yeah, I'm feeling super positive about Microsoft products lately. Let me just tell you, because I got shot number 2 day before yesterday. So my microchip is up and working. And if you cannot read the sarcasm in my voice,
Yeah,
um,
I am so happy. How are you feeling? I heard the second one's a little rough.
yeah, I was achy. It wasn't a great time. It was one day. I can deal with one day of being kind of achy.
Yeah, we've
Not a
done
big
worse.
deal.
Yeah, people have
Better
got
than being on
shit,
a vent for a month.
right. People have been shit faced for drinking and blacking out, the next day feeling horrible. So you can make it work.
If you can handle a bad hangover, you can do this.
Yeah, there you go. So let's talk numbers. Let's get COVID down and tell me where we're at.
Okay, so worldwide, 114 million cases, 2.53 million deaths, which is not going up as precipitously as it was. So
Okay. Okay.
we're actually doing that flattening of the curve thing. We're starting to get there. US has 29 million cases, 524,000 deaths. But again, trending in the positive direction. We've been running in like 40,000 cases or something, but
Okay.
it's a lot better than it has been.
Yeah. So that's good news, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it looks like yesterday was 81,000, but I haven't looked at the rolling 7-day averages, but they're definitely coming down from the like 200,000, 250,000 they were
Okay.
A month or two ago. So going the right way. Oregon has 155,000 cases with 2,206 deaths. And Mississippi, with only 2/3 the population, is running at 294,000 cases and 6,669 deaths.
Wow.
But we've been open the whole time here. Like, I haven't been to a restaurant in a year, but that's not because they haven't been open here. They closed for like a month,
Yeah.
and that was it. So I just have come to the realization that, like, hey, I shouldn't change my behavior when nothing's changed and I'm just tired of it. So
Right. Yeah, and that's really good feedback right there because Oregon's a lot more stricter, but we've also had a lot less cases, and honestly, like it's killing our economy. But at the same time, it's like, I mean,
but it's not killing all your people.
yeah, you can't kill people with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's got to be hope though, because vaccines been rolled out.
Yes,
And-
I am not the only one who is getting the COVID vaccine, and I would just like to have a PSA for everyone because I hear a lot of people, even from like my immunocompromised mom, saying like, "Well, I don't know that I want to, get in there and make sure I get an appointment because I'm taking the vaccine from someone else." It is a bad way to look at it. We want as many jabs in as many arms as possible. If you qualify for it, get it.
yeah,
Just don't think twice. Just get it.
yeah, yeah,
Because you cannot guarantee that it's going to someone else who needs it more. It just means someone besides you isn't getting it. go in there as soon as possible as you can.
And Biden has already purchased 200 more million vaccines. So if you're thinking you're taking it away from someone, trust me, we got 200 million more. And if they get low, he'll buy more.
I mean, the vaccines are coming. They're going to take a while to roll out, and it's just going to take time to get them to people.
Mhm.
But yeah, if you have the opportunity, I mean, don't do some shady deal where you're a bunch of rich people buying them just for your community,
Right.
because that's been happening too.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you qualify in the statewide programs, go for it.
Yeah. It's really amazing to hear that too about people just buying them for their friends and things like that because I know people who've done even gray area things, but it's nothing compared to, you know, politicians
So
are getting them.
yeah, well, for the people that are worried about the safety and the efficacy of this, just keep in mind, rich people are pulling shady things to get theirs first, and all the politicians made sure they were first in line.
Right.
I think that's all the information you should
Yep.
really need.
Amen. Amen.
But so for vaccination numbers, Israel is totally killing this because they are on top of their people, both figuratively and metaphorically,
Mhm.
and they have more than a third of their population vaccinated. Here in the US, 15% of the population has had at least one of the shots, and 7.1% of people have had both.
Mhm.
Oregon is doing pretty similar with 15% of the population having at least one, but they have at least 8% of people with both. So,
That's not bad.
not too bad.
Yeah.
Alaska, interestingly enough, is the state with the highest vaccination rate, which is quite impressive given how spread out their population is.
Mhm.
And weirdly enough, South Dakota is doing well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Given how little importance they've put on COVID thus far, it's kind of interesting that they're doing so well in vaccines, but go them. I'm all for it. Wherever you're getting your vaccines, do it.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a while to roll out, and just so everyone remembers, it's 70 to 90% need to be vaccinated before we're at herd immunity. So there's a ways yet to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for people like me who have had both of the vaccines, I'm going to be starting clinical rotations this summer, and it's just a little bit of extra protection that I can feel a little bit safer being out there and seeing patients.
Yeah.
So, a little peace of mind, but, am I going to still wear a mask all the time? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the most important thing about it. Until we actually get to herd immunity, it's not time to be, going out there and making a ton of mistakes. Hopefully by the end of the year, things will get a little bit better and we'll feel a lot more
Well,
confidence. But
I think even over the summer, we can start easing restrictions some, especially because over the summer, we can be outside more.
Mhm.
And that is shown to be just demonstrably safer than being indoors around other people. So if you can be outdoors with people, especially if you've had both vaccines, to be able to go out to an outdoor restaurant or something,
Mhm.
that's okay. We can start gradually working back towards normal. It's just, we can't hit April and be like, oh, the rule's out the window. No one needs to wear a
Right.
mask anymore. We're done. That's
Right.
not the case.
Yeah. And I will
It's
say,
also important to get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible
Mhm.
to cut down the numbers of COVID circulating so we stop getting these new variants popping up,
right.
because that increases the odds that there will be a mutation that can, spread again for
Yeah.
the people who've been vaccinated.
And that's the big point right there is it just because you get both shots don't mean you shouldn't still mask up. You shouldn't still be safe because of the fact that this virus is clearly proven that it can mutate into something different and make us even more unsafe. And I guess in terms of vaccines and what's here in Oregon, Governor Brown just actually stated that everyone, including general population, will get their vaccine no later than July 1st. So that's really good on the Oregon side of things because we've been so strict. And I mean, Oregon already has a lot of clouds and rains and things like that. So feeling trapped at home all the time, I mean, it's just driving everybody's mental health up the woozle. but I would say this couple things. One, in terms of mental health, um, there's clearly something wrong right now in terms of what's going to happen when all this is over, because of the fact that mental health experts are saying that we're not addressing pandemic related stresses or depressions or anxieties and things like
We've
that.
never addressed any of the other ones before now. Why would we start with this one?
Fair. Yeah, clearly. And so, I mean, I think there was an article in the Oregonian that actually was talking about it, basically saying that there's already like a stark rise in drug related issues, in mental health issues, suicide attempts, things like that, from mid March of last year all the way up until October. That was way higher than in 2019, which is clearly obvious. Like, you talk to any person, including people like me, who's pretty introverted, and I'm still kind of struggling a bit. Like,
Oh yeah, I'm a total introvert, and it's like I'm losing my mind. It's so
yes,
complex.
us introverts are like, okay, stop, we're done.
Yeah, like as an introvert, I want to be able to choose to have me time. That doesn't mean I never want to interact with other people. There's
And
a
like,
difference.
I really want to be around a bunch of crowds at Disneyland. Can we just have that happen soon? Because I'm losing my mind. But nonetheless, it's definitely something that we don't talk about as much. But mental health is definitely going to be an issue when people start getting out again. There is residual effects of mental health not being addressed down the road, even when things all open up. It'll help, but if you are someone who is struggling, there are there's resources out there that you can talk to somebody. And
They're increasing online resources where you can connect with a therapist or even just another person to be able to talk with to help with some of the isolation related things. So if you really can't leave home for safety reasons, there are other options for you,
yeah,
and really do try and seek those out because it is important.
yeah, and that's the thing too. My therapist is online. I happily say that I've been in therapy for 11 years. I think it is just as important as a physical doctor. It keeps you grounded, helps you stabilize yourself in terms of it. So, and mine is online. I can literally video chat him every month, and it's great. With that said, though, there are so many crisis hotlines. Literally, you could Google it, and there's several of them. If you're LGBTQ, there's the Trevor Project. There's all kinds of resources out there. But if you need any, that I think the Trevor Project is probably one of the ones I'm going after. But just keep in mind, you aren't alone. We're all struggling too, and it's hard to see people out there who aren't following the rules, and you're thinking in your head, like, this is crazy. Why am I doing this? But you're doing the right thing. So, uh, that's one thing I did want to bring up. Also, Biden struck Syria. There's questions from Democratic lawmakers stating that they don't believe maybe he should have without Congress's approval. Um, Basically, and again, we're not going to talk too much about this, but basically, he struck a site in Syria that was basically Iranian-backed militias, and he was doing that because it was in response to some attacks, rocket attacks on American forces. And he says that he can use Article 2 of the Constitution, or in which he can defend America if he has to.
Well, and I would just like to say Trump did this, Obama did this. I was against all of it. That's where I lean politically. But hopefully now with Biden in office, we can be leaning more on diplomacy and our soft power rather than saying, screw all of our diplomats. We're just going to go for the big stick all the time.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And I'm kind of glad that, like, I don't know a ton about this yet, and that it's so new of a story that I don't really want to talk tons about it. But Biden's a centrist. We knew he was a centrist. We knew he was the lesser of two evils, and we all voted for him in the intention that we knew he would do something like this. So for me, I'm not mad or anything about it necessarily, but it's
Not
definitely
even particularly surprised, but
no, right. So the next topic we're going to talk about is rents. So I want to talk briefly about them because right now there are people in all of the states that have a moratorium that they can basically not pay their rent until I believe it's July, if I'm not wrong. If it's a
what do they do when that's up?
they will have 6 months to pay back the rent that is sitting on their account.
So, hey, person who lost your job and wasn't able to pay rent, hey, now suddenly that 6 months of rent is due.
Yeah,
Good luck.
yeah. It's another problem we're going to have to address. Now, California is creating a measure as of the Associated Press. They had an article talking about how California their goal is to pay off unpaid rent and about 80% of it. It hasn't been passed or anything, but it's a goal. And they're hoping that like landlords will forgive the other 20% if they do the 80. I know Oregon's also trying to do something similar to this, where they're helping pay off the rent. Or if a resident, fills out some paperwork, the landlord will waive like 20-30% of it. The other percentage will be written off. Or not written off, sorry. The government will pay the landlords back. It's a great option. These are only 2 states that are talking about it. I hate to be doom and gloom, but I have no idea what's going to happen after all this.
Well, it's one of those really annoying things. If they had actually just been sending everyone $1,000 or $2,000 a month, this wouldn't be an issue.
Agreed.
This problem could have gone away and they wouldn't have to worry. There's a lot of like, well, okay, you're helping people stay in their houses, but what about the landlords who have expenses and stuff too? It's like, if you just made it so everyone was able to pay their rent, then everyone would just be able to pay their rent.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot that we have to like work on in terms of it. My other thing about it too is that, people in multifamily, people who are renting apartments, let's say you're paying $900 for rent.
Lucky.
Yeah, right. You're looking at, what is it, 9 times 6? Let's just say you couldn't pay any of your rent.
$5,400.
Yeah, so you have to pay $5,400 and keep your rent current. So you're not actually like, if you really like whatever you owed in 6 months, like had 5,400 and you doubled your rent, you still wouldn't be able to catch up. Like there's no way you'd be paying $1,800 for rent that you can barely afford 900. Like, so there's that. And then I think that's something that is just, yeah, it's insane. So let's take a quick break and then we'll come back. We'll talk about some more fun stuff. And then
we have fun, we promise.
We have fun, not doom and gloom. We'll be right back. Okay, and we are back and with Patty Lewis, my amazing co-host, and we're on hottest topics. So far, we've talked about Biden as well as rent and how we're going to be able to pay it after COVID has subsided, in hopes it will. Or not. So let's talk about a couple of fun stuff.
First, I just want to say, since we're on hottest topics,
yeah,
it's hitting 80 here today, and I made iced tea for the first time this year.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. How do you make your iced tea? Tell me.
Well, I boiled the water first, just still because we're just getting off that whole you have to boil your water because of low pressure thing from the snowpocalypse that happened.
Yeah.
So I don't usually, I just use hot tap water, but I'm trying not to use hot tap water right now because that gets more sort of dissolved solids into your water and yeah, chemistry, whatnot. But warm water, lots of tea bags, let it hang out outside until it looks probably dark enough. And then don't tell anyone who lives here, but I don't put sugar in it.
I love, not even honey or anything?
Lemon.
Oh. Okay, well, lemon's all right, but still, I like my sweet tea.
Yeah, it's like sacrilege down here. It's It's serious business.
That's fair. Don't you have any? Don't you? I think at one point we're going to talk about a specific food that we had going at one point. Do you have any food ideas for people who are like at home and things like that recently?
Oh yeah, I had this thought a while back as I was doing. It was just a frozen like cauliflower rice with like chicken and a cream sauce. Um, and I realized that most people don't know how to make their food taste better.
That's true.
Um,
Not wrong.
it's just one of those like real basic cooking things that once you sort of know how to do, it's really easy. But a lot of people are like, my food's just bad, and they're stuck there.
I gotta eat it.
So so first and foremost, um, please disregard this if you have salt sensitive hypertension or kidney issues, but salt your food. Like
Yeah.
seriously, for most people, your kidneys take care of your salt balance just fine.
Mhm.
If your doctor says otherwise, listen to them, not me. But for most people, salt isn't a big deal. And the main differences between restaurant food that you're like, this is so much better than my food at home, and your food at home is that they have fat and salt to it. It's just
Fair.
the
Yeah.
reality of it. Um, Additionally, for like this cream sauce that I had, it was just, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it was boring.
Mhm.
So I added salt to it, I added garlic to it, I added red chili flakes to it. And for any sort of cream sauce that's kind of boring, the secret weapon is Dijon mustard.
I love Dijon mustard.
Like actually, for my COVID second vaccine kind of sick day that I took for myself yesterday. I didn't need to, but I took it. Um, I had some leftover frozen macaroni and cheese, and every time I make macaroni and cheese, when I make the white sauce before I put the cheese in, I almost always add a little bit of cayenne pepper and some Dijon mustard. And that white sauce better be tasty before I add cheese in. Otherwise, it's still going to be boring once I put the cheese in there.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. And coming from a personal training side, I will say that there are plenty of supplement stores, without naming them, that do have spices that are low in sodium and low in calories. So you just got to
Almost
get
all
creative.
spices have negligible calories. If you
Yeah.
are using dried spices, don't worry about it in the least. If you're getting spice blends, there
Mhm.
might be salt in it, but if you're getting, thyme or powdered garlic, not garlic salt, but powdered garlic, there's no salt in it. There's no
Yeah.
calories in it. Go wild. When I
Yeah.
make chili, I add like a cup of dried spices. Um,
I love
and
chili, by the way. Oh, I want chili. It's so
yeah,
good.
it's good stuff. But yeah, add more spices. And if you're not sure if you should add a spice or not, smell the food you want to put the spice in and smell the spice right next to it. If they smell good right next to each other, they're probably okay to eat.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really good like feedback from there. Uh, okay, so we have a hottest topic. Our hottest topic is my favorite subject, which is space. I love space. Mars has a new visitor. Um, the Perseverance landed successfully on Mars on February 18th, 2021. Perseverance is a rover. It was formerly called Mars 2020. And basically is the first artificial object to land on Mars since InSight Mars lander in 2018. Um, I believe Curiosity was the first one that was in 2012. And so far it's been taking pictures. But I think because of technology and things like that, if you haven't, go on YouTube and look up the rover's pictures because they're able to do it so that they can make it kind of I think it's called panorama, where you kind of, it feels like you're there. And it's pretty
The
fantastic.
pictures are really spectacular, both the pictures and video from the landing. I cried a little bit, not gonna lie. Um,
That's awesome.
it's so amazing.
Yeah. Well, and some other really cool things too. One is space engineers basically call as the rover's landing 7 minutes of terror, and basically it hits the atmosphere traveling at about 12,000 miles per hour. This is
Per second, I
crazy,
think.
huh?
Isn't it per second? I mean, the speeds are just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's according to what I have, it's per hour.
Or I
But
guess it's miles. Yeah, I guess it's mostly the meters per second that they're giving are just in crazy.
yeah,
Because
and
our scientists use metric.
right. Well, and they had this basically it has something that protects it. And then that is kind of what made it so that it could get in there. Um, but once it did actually touch down, there's like a picture of like the engineers going nuts because it gently landed and it was fine.
They cried too.
They did. They did. I'm so glad you cried. I kind of was like, oh, I'm so happy.
I mean, it wasn't like full on like sobbing, but got the little like single tear misty kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to tell people who are very anti-maskers, every one of those space engineers had a mask on while they were in there with them. Like they were following the rules even though they were making history. So just saying, there is a way to make it work. So but I'm excited and I'm looking forward to more pictures and seeing
more pictures and more analysis of the soil because they're looking for previous life.
Yeah.
Now, granted, like, don't get too excited. It's going to take a decade, but
right. But still,
it would be super exciting if they did find evidence of life there, whether there is still current life or not. Because if there's life on 2 neighboring planets like that, it could mean that life is actually a really common thing throughout the universe, and that would be really cool.
It'd be pretty mind-boggling, yeah. I'm going to leave it with this before we move on to our next segment, which is NASA actually has Perseverance, NASA, the rover, it has its own Twitter. And
that is awesome.
Yeah. So February 18th, 2021 at 12:55 p.m., it said, "I'm safe on Mars. Perseverance will get you anywhere."
Aww.
And it's just such the cutest thing ever. So I'm like, nerds.
Yes, we are.
Speaking of nerds, Josh Keanaaina, I never get his last name wrong, right? So I'm going to keep working on it. He and I are going to talk Star Wars. We're going to talk Mandalorian season 1 and 2, then talk about the hot topic about the Cara Dune character, who's a very strong Trump supporter. And then we'll also talk about the politics of why this specific Star Wars series has united not only new people, old people, the originals, the prequels, the sequels, all of them. Why does everybody just love this damn show? So
because it's good.
It's so good.
I mean, really.
Yeah. So we are going to go on a quick break. But other than that, Patty, I'm crazy about you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I will see you later.
I will see you later. And we will be right back. All right. And we are back. Thank you so much, Patty. You are freaking amazing. I love this new video start. It's amazing. But thank you, Patty. You're amazing nonetheless. So we are on our second segment, which is our second part of the month, which is our kind of our movie TV review. And I have my in-house critic, which I am so grateful for, who is flying in space, here to tell us. Josh Keanaaina. Did I get it?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, so close.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad you could, transmit from here. Obviously, lots of space stuff going on. There's Mars.
Right.
And you're just like out there like, why aren't we talking about the Mandalorian? It was pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I brought you back because I think that just as a movie review, we should also talk TV because TV is starting to turn into a very like cinematic experience. And especially Disney has consistently been upping the ante with Disney Plus and bringing the Mandalorian in. So what we're going to do, first of all, audience, if you have not seen Mandalorian, shame on you. Number two, if you want to save the spoilers, do not continue watching this or hearing it because I'm about to spoil so much shit. So let's talk Mandalorian. Tell me what it's about. Tell me what in Star Wars makes sense. And then we'll start with the first season.
All right. So the first season of Mandalorian follows a Mandalorian, which is a creed of people. They're not a race, even though they're referred to kind of like in by their race. But in this case, this Mandalorian is somebody who was raised to be a Mandalorian from he was saved, I guess, from the Empire kind of like came and destroyed a city. We see this in flashback in the first episode, and so this guy has been raised by these basically ninja samurai cowboy people, and it's just basically about his journey through that kind of he's a bounty hunter. So basically his whole job is to go and get people and bring them back, and you see that really clearly in the first episode. And then the very next thing that we see after that is that he's going after this target that everyone is going after, very expensive, and he's kind of like getting back into like being a rich person. I guess he's kind of like like he's getting a whole bunch of money by doing this, and when he gets there, he finds that it's a child, and not only is it a child, but it's a child in the race of Yoda, which we don't really know what the race is called. But I thought it was really cool how they kind of like the Jedi and the Mandalorians are supposed to be like mortal enemies, and they're kind of putting them together now in this kind of father-son relationship. And so it's really heartwarming. It's just a cool tale about Star Wars, but it's not necessarily Star Wars as we've seen it before. And I think it kind of takes us into parts of Star Wars that we haven't ever seen, and because of that, like it's a I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to diss it or anything, but it's a little safe. It's a safe option because there's a lot of people who attach their identity to Star Wars very much so. Main Star Wars, if you mess up main Star Wars, there's no forgiveness for you in this world or their next world or whatever. You know, that's how bad it is for some people. So they did this really well. It was Jon Favreau, who was in a lot of Marvel stuff. He's a director, but he's also a writer, and he wrote. So this is we're done with the second season now. He wrote 12 of the 16 episodes.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he there was only 2 other writers. Well, 3. Dave Filoni, who did a lot of the animated series of
Clone Wars,
Clone
Rebels,
Wars, and then there's a new guy who came, Rick Famuyiwa. He's also a writer and a director for the Mandalorian, and there was another guy, Chris Yost, who helped with episode 6. It was the prisoner, an episode in the first season. He was kind of like a co-writer for that one. But besides that, all Jon Favreau writing all those, and Jon Favreau only directed 1 episode of the whole series so far, which was the first episode of season 2. But besides that, it's been Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa and Deborah Chow, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Taika Waititi. Oh, Peyton Reed and Robert Rodriguez. Oh yeah, and Carl Weathers did one in the second season, which is pretty cool. But it is like I don't know how deeply you wanted me to dig into the lore, but that's basically what the show is. He finds the kid, realizes he's giving him to the Empire for money. After he's taken money, he goes back and steals the child back, and then tries to save the kid. And it is the Mandalorian way, or at least the Mandalorian that he subscribes to.
This is the way. It's one of my favorite.
The way is to raise kids that are being are in danger, to raise them as a Mandalorian, or to kind of take them back to who they belong to and give them back. So that's basically the quest of the first season, is to figure out where he belongs and to save him from whatever he's being from. And that at the end of that season 1, he gets quested to go and now give him to an enemy sorcerer, a Jedi. And that kind of turns out really well in the second season. But let's go back to the first season. The reason why I love the first season is because it's kind of like it's just, the story is familiar, but it's all original. There's all the characters are original, and so we're not really getting like retreads of anything that we've seen before, which is really refreshing in this series, because there's always, when you like, everything we've gotten in the last 20 years, 25 years for this has been a retreading of everything we've seen before. It's like just a bunch of nostalgia porn.
Pillow, like very comfortable.
Yeah. But mostly nostalgia porn. It's just like they're throwing it on top of us. They want us to be so excited about what happened before and not really giving us a new direction. And I think that's why this is a good approach to making a TV show. But the pacing has got a lot of fast action, but they're still willing to go slow. And the reason why they have to go slow is because this guy's wearing a mask the whole time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of or seen like the behind the scenes stuff for like Star Trek. Star Trek: The Next Generation had a guy who was blind. LeVar Burton played Geordi LaForge, and he had just a thin strip of something across his eyes. He said it made him feel like he was acting without arms, without legs. Like it was it was hard for him to do that. A lot
of story, because as a past actor, as a director, like you're looking at people's eyes because they're going to tell you a lot of story. And in The Mandalorian, there's something. I mean, this takes place right after Return of the Jedi. So if you're kind of an older generation and likes the originals, it really does connect with people from that genre. And so, but going back to kind of your thought about, you have a mask on, you're literally, everything's being taken from your tool is being handicapped a little bit.
Well, not only that, like he doesn't talk much. He's a man of few words. And so a lot of the visual language that we're seeing in the cinematography and the shot choices have to include a silent, faceless person emoting, and especially when he's looking at a child. Like usually we're like, oh, we see that happy face, or he's concerned or something like that. But like, I think there was one episode. I think it was either like the second to last one, like The Reckoning, or like near the end, where the baby is in, or maybe it was in the second season. Anyway, but the baby was in the back of the broken ship, and he's like trying to talk to him through the little hole. He's like, oh, take the blue wire out and put the red wire in. And he's like, huh? I can't understand. I mean, that's exactly how it feels to talk to a kid who doesn't understand what you're saying.
Hey, let alone like electrical.
It totally happened to me many times.
Yeah.
But you could just tell he was frustrated, but he was just like, there's nothing I can do about this. We're gonna have to go and fix our ship somewhere else. But like that, all of that time that they spent developing those characters is really, really good, because then we feel more about these characters. One of those characters that I felt the most about was Kuiil. We see him in the first episode.
Yes.
And in the last episode, like really, don't watch if you have not seen this. Don't watch it.
Spoiler alert! Here it comes.
Yeah, here it comes. He dies.
Yeah.
And like you kind of think, oh well, maybe IG-11's gonna come out and save him, but no, he's dead.
That was hard. That was hard.
Yeah, it was like that's sad, bro. That's super sad.
And his background is really interesting too, because
right.
if I'm not wrong, wasn't he like an Empire worker or something at one point?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And it was interesting to watch him and Cara Dune, who is an old military character, and them fighting back and forth about who was right or wrong. Like there's something very beautiful about what they did with Mandalorian that first season, because you are having to create nostalgia, but don't create nostalgia. It's my frustration with women empowerment movies. And I hate to keep bringing that one up, but it really frustrates me when you stuff it down my throat instead of creating a natural character who evolves into this strong woman, or is strong, but learns something through it. Like that is amazing to me. That is spot on. And with this one, obviously, if you haven't seen the Baby Yoda character all over the internet, everywhere, like it became the new meme. Like there's the sassy cat before that, and then Baby Yoda became everything. And I'm obsessed. I will retweet every freaking Baby Yoda character meme ever. Like I see it, I'm like, perfect, reach it. But it does really say a lot about the writing here, because you've almost got this fan base writers creating like $1 million product that most fans don't have the resources for. And I think you slam it, you put it right on there where it's like, yeah, that's what we needed, was this development of, I feel like Rogue One had that feeling where we were like, oh, we're getting to know somebody who's not a Skywalker. There's still really amazing people leading the charge to defeat the Empire or the Resistance, or lost the prequel characters. What are they? The droids. Well, we'll just say the droids, but I know there's a name for them too. Huh?
C-3PO? Is it?
Well, no, the people, the Republic was fighting the Grievous, and what is that?
Oh, yeah. The separatists?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was always that fight back and forth, but George Lucas said it most, that these are about family, and they're about father and son, or mother and daughter, or anything to that extent. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break and then come back. We're going to talk about season 2. Be right back, everyone. All right, and we are back. Thank you so much for joining us on the amazing review. I kind of like I love my LGBTQI plus heroes, my allies. I love them to death. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm so super grateful I get to talk about movies and TV too. It makes me very happy. So I'm glad this is the segment, because when we first started this show, they were like 1.5 to 2 hours long, and we were like, oh my God, we got to cut this down. And so having like just 2 segments, which is like, all right, hottest topics is every segment, and then whatever's the second one, which is heroes and allies of gay and lesbian community. Plus, sorry, not trying to isolate anybody. And the second one is obviously movie reviews. And then now I want to kind of evolve it to movies and TV. So if you didn't know, this is my in-house critic, who is clearly in space, so not in-house. So Josh, thank you again for talking with me again, because I love your feedback. Yeah, you're so prepared, and I appreciate it. I'm never prepared. I just think I'm super smart by just doing whatever with it. That's why I make you talk more. But okay, so we just talked about season 1 of Mandalorian. We talked about how it kind of set up a really great basis for nostalgia, for creating a much better Star Wars story. And we're saying that on a lot of levels. Now, let's talk season 2. Tell me what you thought of season 2 with Mandalorian, because that just ended pretty recently.
Yeah, season 2 was it's complicated. I really like all the setup in season 1 leading up to season 2, because I feel like it did the work that it needed to do in order to put us back into nostalgia porn. Because there's a lot of nostalgia in the second season, leading like coming back to people we've seen before, like Boba Fett and Ahsoka Tano, and then ultimately in the last episode with
spoiler alert.
The guy, and so there's all these. It becomes less of a of an original thing and more about like a quest-based thing where we're trying to hit all these people, and kind of we're setting up for other stories. So like there's an Ahsoka Tano series coming out, and that's why they did the 5th episode about her, and then like this whole season we've been like having Boba Fett in the background, and then he comes into the foreground near the end of the season, and so that he can have his own show. And then and now we kind of have like a parting of the ways, and Mandalorian is, or Din Djarin, he's leaving Grogu, who has a name now. Baby Yoda has a name now.
Yep.
And they are gonna do their own thing now, and Grogu's with Luke. That was the spoiler. And so it's like, oh well, now we're splitting off all these things. There's a whole bunch more to come, and is that a good thing or not? I don't know. But we also got Katie Sackhoff came in as Bo-Katan.
Yes.
And if you don't know, she is like most famous for Battlestar Galactica. She was Starbuck, you know. And yeah, it was, there's some people coming back, like Mayfeld came back, had a pretty good, that was I thought a way better character development than in the first season. But all of these, what really hit me with the second, or rewatching the second season, was the cinematography is so amazing, and the effects, except for maybe the last episode. I don't know if the last episode kind of brought me out of it, but all the other effects are very, very well done. And cinematography is very good. Every frame feels like it's super iconic. And I think that's kind of due to like how they're doing the credits. And this is for the whole way through, they're showing us the concept art. And I think that is so cool to, like, just as a film nerd and all that kind of stuff, like, yeah, give me all that really cool background stuff. I really like it. It's awesome. But we also get like, and we didn't talk about this in the first season, that music is so awesome. It's original music. It's not John Williams-esque like it has been in the past. It's like totally its own thing. And if you watch through, I watched all 16 episodes in the last week in preparation for this.
You're so prepared. I'm so grateful.
You get like this a different flavor of that music, like every episode, and it starts to become like an additional commentary on what's happening, how we should be feeling, and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really deep. Well, so if you get to watch through it again, just watch and listen to the music. And I mean, it's freaking awesome.
And I mean, if you watch Star Wars is just an okay movie, but you put John Williams music in it, and it's an epic story. Right. I think what Mandalorian did was create a brand new theme that, like, you hear that and you're like, oh, the Mandalorian. Like, I love it. It's very like Western and space feel. And it's just so smart. And that's what they do. They constantly do smart things, because I can tell you in season 2, yes, there was a lot of cameos, but like, they didn't just throw cameos in there. Like, they made this story revolve around these characters, that it was like, oh, well, Ahsoka Tano, the last time we saw them in Star Wars Rebels, spoiler alert, she was going to look for Ezra Bridger, which is from Star Wars Rebels and another time, another story. And you take all these other stories where it's like, oh, I remember you. What happened? But it's created in a way that it's not like, oh my God, Bill Murray's in it. That's cool. They're like, actually have a reason to be on it. Like, I kept getting surprised about that. But I really want to talk about something more important, which is there's so much about Star Wars that makes me really happy, because I'm a political person. Obviously, I have a politically progressive TV video show, as well as podcasts, things like that. So if people are listening on podcast, yay, thank you still. But if you're on YouTube, even just as good. Let's talk about the politics of it, because we're going to eventually do a little battle of The Last Jedi and talk about we have very different opinions on how that came about, and I love to debate in a healthy way, and you're my friend, so we will end with like hating each other because we're like, we've already kind of had this discussion.
Right.
But Mandalorian did something that no other Star Wars that Disney did, which is
So far.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
Which is Disney created a Mandalorian show that united people who were old fans of prequels, people who liked the originals, people who liked the newer ones. They connected them. Then they brought a broader audience. They brought new people in that were like, "What is this show?" And they got excited about it, you know.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I hate to say it, as much as I really don't want to throw Baby Yoda / Grogu in, just putting that cute little thing in the show made people want to see the show. People got excited about it. And it was like, I say things like WandaVision took me a few episodes to get into. Like after about the fourth or fifth, I was like, okay, cool. I get it. Like this is kind of cool. Mandalorian, first episode, hooked. Hooked. And I'm like, I hope this is hooked with everyone else. So tell me your thought process on the political side of it, which is, why did Mandalorian unite everyone in it?
Well, I think it's really hard to in isolation to say that like this was different. So I feel like it's kind of necessary to talk about what came before. So as you kind of know, like, well, if you have any kind of connection to Star Wars at all, you know that there's a little bit of toxic fan base going on. And this is not something that's new. It's been around since it came out, like since the first episode, or episode 4 came out. People said, "Oh, well, it's kind of a boring show." People about episode 5, which people love nowadays, Empire Strikes Back. They're like, the plot doesn't really go anywhere, and Mark Hamill's not really, somebody who can fulfill a role that would last for decades.
Right.
And people are saying these kinds of things about those movies, and when the prequel trilogy came out, there was so much hate and vitriol that the guy who created it, he sold it.
Yeah.
He was like, I can't handle this. I've been trying to give these people what they want for 20 something years, and now I just can't do it anymore. Sold it off.
Yeah.
And
Jar Jar Binks. Why do people hate Jar Jar Binks?
Yeah. Well, see, here's the hard part is, like, there's no real rhyme or reason, and I think it's because we typically, as the fan bases of most film franchises and intellectual property franchises, kind of attach their own identity to it. So they're kind of invested in the kind of quality that they expect from what made them fall in love with it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so when they see that there's a divergence from that, that somebody's taking maybe a creative risk or going in a different direction than they wanted to go into, then all of a sudden it's like, not only, and this kind of stuff is pretty intense, because I've heard songs of people saying, like, that their childhood was raped. By George Lucas. And I'm like, yo, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure he hasn't done anything to you in a terrible way like that.
Right.
But it's just, he did all the things that he did, and people didn't like it so much that they hated him out of existence. Now, people didn't really like how that turned out for Disney coming in now. And because Disney's kind of complicated too. I mean, when we talk about the animated series or the animated shows that they did over the 90s, they've just done these remakes, live action remakes.
Yeah.
And they injected all of these additional commentaries that were direct, like, responses to the kinds of criticism they've been receiving for decades about those movies.
Right.
And it wasn't a bad thing for them to put like feminist stuff in there. It's like a princess doesn't have a prince to be 100% complete and stuff like that. like it's not a bad thing for that to be in there, but I feel like there has to be a story reason, or else it kind of cheapens what it was into something else. And
Agreed.
and I think that tendency for Disney to just kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna backpedal on all the things that we did that were wrong, kind of hurt the whole thing when they were doing this new sequel trilogy. They didn't want to stick with anything that they put in there. Well, as soon as it was out there, they got the toxic fandom. They put something different in there, and then when that didn't work out, they did the exact same thing again, trying to go in the opposite direction, and it just was a mess.
Really
and I think that's that kind of what pushed everyone away, and that's why we needed to have something like the Mandalorian. If we want to have a better thing in the future, if we want to have better shows like this, we cannot continue to be toxic, because if we got people reacting that way to everything that comes out, we're going to get more of what happened with Star Wars.
Yeah.
For everything. Because like, I don't know if I didn't really like the Rise of Skywalker at all. I
can agree.
I didn't think it was anything good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that way. I don't know. There are some people who don't feel that way. Like my children love the movies, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I just feel like if we don't put ourselves to a higher standard where we can actually give criticism that is meaningful and doesn't hurt people, like we don't need death threats going to the actors and actresses. We don't need like all these kinds of weird body shaming things and like racism and all that kind of stuff happening, which all of that stuff happened.
Yeah.
And it's been happening since George Lucas. So it's not like this is brand new or anything.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't think that a focus on women characters in Star Wars is a good thing.
Right.
And I think that it was a safe move to go with the Mandalorian because he's a man. Mm-hmm. And so that is, that's pretty safe.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that Bo-Katan is still female and that they haven't changed that. But there's just a lot of
yeah. And I think that you're really spot on with that. Like there's definitely toxicity about it. You're talking about a movie, a series of 3 movies that have survived for almost 50 years. Crazy. That's never happened. And to be able to try to replicate that, like Disney really came in thinking they could change a lot. And I was going to say too about Rise of Skywalker, there was a leaked script from the director that got fired on Rise of Skywalker. I have no idea why, because if the script that I saw, like what it went through, it would have been badass. Like it would have been the right way to end the films. But instead, Disney knee-jerk because they really didn't understand their audience. Don't get me wrong. I want different, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But but in terms of this, I just want to kind of end on the break real quick and just say that with Disney, they have their moments where they're trying. I just think that they made a really bad move in the beginning by saying, okay, we're going to just shut everything down and we're going to forget everything that George Lucas told you. Because we may be, as fans, many of us, I call it a marriage. So I'm like, we have our ups and downs and hopefully, things will be fine. But I really feel like Disney walked in and said, okay, we're going to just forget everything all the last 40 years that you remember. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to change it all. So like that, there's certain ways that they started the date off really uncomfortable for people who have spent their lives like tattoos all over their body, reading every book, every comic book, every this. And yes, it's hard to tell a story staying in those lines, but there's also a level of respect that I think that Marvel fans, for example, who were pretty okay with whatever Disney did, next to Star Wars fans who were like, no. Hold up. And again, this is me just saying that Disney could have been better at the first date. They started it off where we all got uncomfortable because they're like, I know you like this, but we're going to change all this. Like you said Red Robin or you said a burger joint. but we're going to do tacos. And you're like, but I really want a burger. Like, and so I think there's a difference from that. But before I yak away, because I'm totally over my break, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We have more to talk about with The Mandalorian. Thank you so much. Hang on, Josh. All right, we are back with our Mandalorian review. And of course, it's Star Wars, so I'm going to draw it out as much as I can. But Josh, thank you so much for all your input. I'm so grateful. Thank you. So I want to talk about the most hottest topic of Star Wars, Mandalorian specifically. So there is it's a little interesting because the person who plays the Mandalorian, the lead character, is a very progressive person. He's got LGBT allies as well as I believe he's got a trans family member, but I'm not sure. I don't want to quote that, but I'm pretty sure he's got someone under there because there's a tweet I saw of him kind of talking about it. So we have two political parties on the set of Mandalorian. You've got Pedro Pascal, which is more liberal, progressive side. And then you have Gina Carano, who plays, Cara Dune.
Cara Dune, yeah.
And she is conservative, but she's Republican conservative, very far to the right, past the GOP, Trump supporter, believes in a lot of QAnon conspiracy theories and things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about her because there's something really powerful. One, let me just say, I think she did a fantastic job in Mandalorian. Yeah. I think she played a very powerful character and a very strong woman. And she was strong because she was strong, not because she's a woman, which again, love that kind of writing. So basically, if you don't know, and listeners, viewers, if you don't know, she got fired off of Mandalorian after season 2, basically because she had been saying it was a specific tweet in which she compared herself and her persecution of being a Trump supporter and GOP to being a Jew in a Nazi concentration camp. And that pissed a lot of people off. And the hashtag fire her basically was our fire Gina Carano started spreading. She got fired. So that's kind of what happened with her. A lot of people on the right are saying, well, Pedro Pascal says a bunch of shit all the time too, but it's more on the left. Why are you doing that to her and whatnot? I have a question for you. I know we don't talk politics much because I kind of keep pretty neutral, but guess what? We talk on politics.
Hey, there you
honestly go. Biased news and community, right? So let's talk about, what do you think Disney should have done in that situation? Or do you kind of feel like, hey, just like if I was to work at Burgerville, which is a local fast food place here. If I was to work at some like local fast food or whatever, and they're like, hey, no political shirts. And I brought in a political shirt and was like, too bad, like not sorry about it, political shirt. Or is it more like, I think Disney is being a little harsh. What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of it's a sensitive topic because I think that in general, having a multitude of voices about anything that have their own take and even if they conflict, it helps with everything. Like if you and me watched movies and we didn't care either, like we're not on different wavelengths about it, like it wouldn't be very interesting of a thing to talk about, like, oh yeah, we totally agree about this and everything's great. And now what? So I kind of feel like in a way it was maybe not unfair, but because they are a business and they have to worry about their image, Disney I'm talking about. And because of that, like they basically determine the rules of what should go on within their power. In this case, I kind of, what I heard from people who supported her supported her side of the story, was that the one that she got fired for wasn't the reason why she was fired, because she got into some fights with people saying like, I'm not sorry about some previous tweets, and it was kind of like Disney was looking for a reason to get rid of her, and so it wasn't not just one thing, it was like a continued behavior, and so in that way I can see why Disney chose their things. But some of the things that they're saying about that, like the people who supported her or support her now still, are saying that that this is cancel culture, but I don't really agree with that term, because it's actually like consequence culture. Like you are an adult now, and you cannot use your platform for spreading hate. People are not going to like that, no matter if you're on the right or on the left, or somewhere in between. You just can't go onto your platforms and say horrible, hateful things and have that be okay. And even if it's taken a little bit, too seriously, because like she didn't actually say that she was a Jew. She said it was like that. And so it's it's kind of tone deaf more than it's like offensive. And so like to be fired for something that you said that was tone deaf doesn't seem like something that's good. But she did say some things earlier about like not using pronouns and saying blip bloop blop or something like that in her tweets, and got into some fights with other people, and that didn't go over well with Disney either. And so they were already looking for a reason to get her out. And I feel like she did a good job. I don't necessarily think she's the best person who could have filled that role. Because she's an actress, and that's okay. It's like people have jobs, and looks like she's being able to do her own thing now that she's doing that. People have picked her up, and they're giving her a way to continue her voice in whatever direction she wants to go in. And it looks like to be like evangelical based some kind of media. Which is great, and she's gonna make her movies, and I don't think this is like negatively impacted her career. That's where she wanted to go anyway, seems like. Obviously getting money from Disney probably would have been amazing, but like you kind of have to follow rules when you have a large corporation backing you. And if you don't, that's the business, baby,
And honestly, like I've worked in acting myself. I like doing this show is a very weird thing to me, because I didn't think I'd ever be a host or do anything like this. And it's such a small little podcast, but like even my voice, I keep, even with my political part of this all, I make sure I state facts and I talk about it. And if I give my opinion, it's not about hating somebody. Even with Donald Trump, previous former President Donald Trump, like I give him the respect that he was a previous president. So that's important. But I'm calling him out, just like I'm calling Biden out. And a lot of people, like I posted about kids still in cages. And I'm like, I know Biden's doing his best, but the reality is it needs to stay in the forefront so that it doesn't get hidden somewhere else. And people were like, oh, well, he can do nothing. Right. And I'm like, no, he's doing some good stuff. He's clearly calmed the nation down. That's a huge, huge plus. And we're having a lot less on the conservative side with the Capitol, obviously people are rioting and trying to take it down, and protests are still happening. But like we've got some hold of things. He is a centrist. I'm not going to agree with him at all on quite a bit of things. But the reality is he's better leader in terms of handling a nation than Trump. And if we're going to keep people accountable, we can't look at them as they're on our team or not. As a progressive, I know Democrats just want my vote. They don't care what I say or how I'm saying it. They just want my vote. So they're going to shame me every 4 years to get my vote. and that's frustrating, because for me, it's like, Right now we're fighting for $15 an hour. Right now we're trying to push that forward not because I need the 15, I make more than 15, but because I know there is a mom out there, there is someone out there that we need to give a crap about more than ourselves, period. Right. And we can put money elsewhere and take care of things. But I don't know everything, and I hope that that's what my show does. And I think if Gina did a show like this, she could say whatever the hell she wanted. Right. And that's it. I'm talking progressive policies. I'm pushing things that someone may not agree with. And I'm okay with that. And I would love to have like an LGBTQ Republican on my show. I would love to just talk and listen to them. Not because I agree with them, but because I need to hear the other side. I want to see everyone, because we're all in this big giant house called the United States of America. And we got to get along somehow. And maybe we don't like each other sometimes or whatever, but we're all still in this damn house. So that's my frustration. That's my yak about that. So that's kind of what I would say about her. So, but it has been an amazing conversation with you. I am so crazy about you helping me here because, Josh, every time I think of like, oh, I want to get somebody on the show. Like, I know that other people probably want to give their feedback, but you're like my number one every time.
All right.
Because you're so good and you study so much better. And if I haven't said it already, it's been about a year since I started Honestly Biased News and Community, the show and not the page. And I'm so grateful for you. And I hope you know that every minute that you do this with me, I'm so grateful. And I hope we keep continuing to do this. And obviously we're going to do a last Jedi debacle. That'll be fun.
All right. Looking forward to that. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So we're going to end it with the hashtags that I do have at the end of my show. That way we can kind of end the show properly. Hashtag not me us, hashtag our revolution, hashtag Black Lives Matter, wash your fucking hands and wear a damn mask. And everyone have a wonderful couple weeks. We will see you all soon. Thanks again, Josh.
Thank you.